Hi everyone, and welcome to this mini presentation on some challenges teachers will be facing in 2020 and some solutions that I've come up with. The context I'll be concentrating on is the language classroom of the Irish senior cycle, which is the final 2 years of secondary school, which I suppose is kind of like your A-levels around that time. There are a number of challenges for language teachers in this context, and I'm going to outline these first. The first challenge is the fact that the senior cycle itself is focused on summative testing. The Leaving Certificate, which is the set of exams you sit at the end, sets you up for a really gruelling and competitive college application process. The pressure for students to do well in these tests is so high that it's what is actually driving many of the decisions teachers are making in their classrooms, and they actually end up teaching to the test. Then the curriculum itself is too rigid, and I feel this kills creativity for teachers. They can't really try something innovative and current as there's so much pressure to cover the course for the exams. And as Ken Robinson has said, school kills creativity, and I think this is one of the reasons why. Also, timetables in Irish secondary schools are very rigid. You only get 40 minutes per class on average, and this leaves no time for getting creative with your students. And with language learning in particular, there's not enough time to practice the 4 skills of language learning, which are reading, writing, listening, and in particular, speaking. Another more general challenge that teachers will come against is creating a balance between collaboration in their classroom and independent learning in their classroom. Of course, language learning is social, but there also needs to be a sense of independence to learn the language too. In education over the last number of years, there is so much focus on collaboration and social learning. This is something I believe to be really important, don't get me wrong. However, I do also value the skill of working alone and independently. So I think there's kind of a balance here that teachers will have to strike between having their students work individually and also work in pairs and groups. Also, there's not enough opportunity in general for students to learn from the world around them. If they're stuck in school all day reading from a textbook, they're not really experiencing what happens in a real world context, such as in the country of the spoken language, for example. And if the testing is a summative written test, this does not mimic the real world or even university, so it doesn't really prepare them for anything beyond school. And finally, there's also a challenge for teachers themselves, and this will be getting their heads around new technology. With things like adaptive learning and more sophisticated tech coming down the line, they will have to be at the cutting edge to make sure that they're making the most of the learning for their students. So to deal with these challenges facing our teachers in the Irish senior cycle classroom, I've come up with a few solutions. I think only picking a few tech tools is actually quite a hard job, because I believe that a lot of the tools work in tandem together, but I'll try to keep it short and sweet. The first set of tools, let's say, are Google Classroom and Google Apps for Education. Obviously, these are two different tools, but I think they work really well together. Google Classroom is more of a platform for submitting assignments, and Google Apps for Education are kind of, let's say, creation tools. But let's have a look and see how well they can work together. Google Classroom enables teachers to reach all students at any time. Teachers can post video lessons they made themselves, but also videos created by others on YouTube. And this enables them to share a variety of content for a variety of learners, and exposes learners to listening to and reading the language. Differentiation is possible as learners can choose specific elements of what is posted that suits them, and this encourages them to work alone. Students can create a digital story or write an essay and publish it to their classroom for their fellow students to see, and they can also watch or read their classmates' work too. And then there's Google Apps for Education. This is a sort of cloud computing app, and this allows you to share your document and edit it from home or in school. Your teacher can comment on your document and you can improve iteratively on your work, which is great for formative assessment. Using it anytime, anywhere helps the rigid timetables as learning can continue outside of the classroom. All of these can be put into Google Classroom once they are finished products, and your work can be showcased to your class and your parents and your teachers, etc. My second set of tools are creative tools like digital storytelling apps and WordPress. I categorise these together as they are kind of creative platforms. So with digital storytelling, the language learners can practice all 4 skills. They can narrate over slides to practice speaking, they can listen back and review their pronunciation, they can bring in a video snippet of a native speaker and try to copy them in their slide. They can bring in an image of some text and practice reading it aloud. They can also write in their digital story, perhaps labelling body parts and so on. This can then be published in Google Classroom. With WordPress, a learner can practice their written skills. Both of these appeal, like digital storytelling apps and something like WordPress, they appeal to the learner's creativity. And as they can be worked on outside of the classroom, teachers and students aren't restricted by the timetable. Learning is happening all the time. My third suggestion would be a digital portfolio such as Seesaw. With Seesaw, this can engage students with their environment and what's going on around them. For language learning, students can perhaps go about their day and document what they see using the target language. This connects quite closely with digital storytelling, and they could be seen as similar tools, but I put this in a separate category, as with this they are actually engaging more directly in the world around them and bringing the world into learning. So my fourth suggestion is an adaptive learning program such as Nearpod. And this encourages learner independence, as the learner can work alone with their computer while also giving the teacher time to be a guide on the side and spending time with individuals. I was at a conference earlier in the year, and Dr. David Docterman, who is a Harvard professor and chief learning architect at Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, he was speaking at one of the sessions. What he was saying about adaptive learning is that it's vital for students to be aware of their learning process and actually have a choice in where they go next. If they can start to think of what they need more of, this is them acting metacognitively. So rather than a set of algorithms making decisions for you along the way, it's a good idea for students to have the chance to choose their own learning path, as this makes them more aware of their own learning process. So I think metacognition is really relevant here in relation to developing independent learners with adaptive learning programs. And I also think that teachers can benefit massively from adaptive learning platforms like Nearpod. I think that this can help them to progress in the ways that they need for their subject and their own context. Also, platforms such as Twitter and Pinterest to develop a personal learning network is key for their success as a teacher. Over in the States, I've been connecting a lot with teachers, and I can see how much they're learning from each other. They start up conversations together, they join Twitter chats, they share documents and websites and blogs and stuff, and they learn so much from each other. So I think there's a lot of scope here for teachers to learn from apps like Twitter and Pinterest. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say, any feedback you guys have, and I'm also looking forward to seeing all of your presentations too. Thank you.